The most significant challenges governments face today are global, transboundary, and cross-cutting in nature. The interconnected nature of the health, economic and social crises caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, along with other global issues, such as climate change, are bringing to light complex challenges that cut across policy fields and national boundaries. With increasing global interconnectedness, decisions countries make today can affect the well-being of people living in other countries or regions. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development reflects this complex reality. Through its 17 interconnected Sustainable Development Goals and 169 targets. However, 6 years into implementing the SDGs, have revealed that policymakers worldwide are still facing major challenges to effectively manage trade-offs and leverage linkages between economic, social and environmental goals. To effectively address interconnected challenges and accelerate progress towards the SDGs, governments need to overcome policy silos and align policies with climate and sustainable development goals. But such policy coherence will not work if it is not accompanied by strong organizational support that transcends compartmentalized structures of government. The OECD recommendation presents a framework of 8 guiding principles to promote policy coherence. These principles refer to institutional mechanisms, meaning governance structures, processes, systems and working methods, which have helped improve policy coherence in governments from different political and administrative traditions. Principle 1. Build political commitment and leadership at the highest level, to mobilize the whole government. Principle 2. Adopt a strategic long-term vision, to consider the consequences of today's decisions on future generations. Principle 3. Strengthen policy integration, to capitalize on synergies between economic, social and environmental policies. Principle 4. Ensure whole-of-government coordination, to avoid fragmentation and address divergences between different policies. Principle 5. Engage subnational levels of government, to align priorities and promote coordinated action. Principle 6. Engage key stakeholder effectively, to identify challenges, set priorities, align actions and mobilize resources for sustainable development. Principle 7. Increase capacities to analyze and assess policy impacts, to consider more systematically the effects of domestic policies, particularly those likely to affect developing countries. Principle 8. Strengthen monitoring, reporting and evaluation systems, to inform decision-making and adjust policies in light of potential negative effects on sustainable development. The PCSD Self-Assessment Tool aims to support governments in assessing their institutional mechanisms, organizational structures and policymaking processes against the principles and good practice standards set out in the OECD recommendation on policy coherence for sustainable development. It is designed to help users identify strengths, gaps and weaknesses as a first step towards improvement. The tool aims to stimulate an open dialogue across stakeholders on what works and what does not, and on what changes are needed, if any, to strengthen their current institutional mechanisms, systems and processes for the implementation of the SDGs. The checklist and the score system aim to appraise the existence of the mechanisms for coherence, the conditions in place, and the level of implementation and maturity. With 5 different levels of practice, ranging from 1. The mechanism for policy coherence is not in place, which would imply a weak practice, to 5. The mechanism is in place fully functioning, which would entail an excellent practice. Once the user has completed the self-assessment, the results are automatically generated and visualized through a graph, which shows the score for each of the mechanisms assessed, and how the country is positioned against the good practice outlined in the OECD recommendation on policy coherence for sustainable development. Enhancing policy coherence for sustainable development today can help build a better future for people and for planet.